And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. We have an awesome guest for you today, but if you can do me a favor before we pull him in, can you please make sure that you like, share, and review this podcast? It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's everywhere you can find it. And if you can subscribe, that helps. Make sure you hit that bell. Let's get people here. Let's get people involved in shaping success. Let's show them that success is defined by you. Our guest today is Dallas Walker. He is a country music musician as well as some other things. We've had him on One Drink Wednesday with myself and Jay. Welcome to the show, Dallas.
Hey, Wes. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, we got to talk to you. I don't know. It's been probably about a month now on One Drink Wednesday, which was super cool. You got to kick some songs out, and yeah, that's a good time, right?
That was a real good time, honestly.
Yeah.
There should be a lot more people watching that.
Well, you're welcome anytime. You know that.
Yeah, I'm going to be back on. I'm definitely going to try to jump on there really soon.
Yep. So, I mentioned in the beginning that you have kind of a country music career that you're trying to kick off. Can you tell us just kind of a little bit about things other than that, like who you are, where you grew up, those types of things?
Yeah. Well, I'm a Southern guy, so it's interesting. I was in California for a couple of weeks, and I don't never pay attention to how I speak until I go out of town, and everybody continually tells me I have an accent. But I always feel like y'all have the accent, you know what I mean? So, but I'm from East Tennessee. Chattanooga is the city that I was born and raised. So if you know anything about that part of Tennessee, it touches Alabama and Georgia. So literally where I was born and raised, I was right on the line, and you could throw a rock over into Georgia and 5 minutes from Alabama. So I kind of caught all three of those,
Yeah.
But just born and raised in Chattanooga. My mom and dad, I've got one brother. He's a younger brother. His name is Dakota. And I don't know what they were thinking, but we ended up with a Dallas and a Dakota. And the cool thing is they spell his name with a C. And a lot of people miss that because most of the time, like North Dakota, South Dakota is spelled with a K.
Yeah.
But for some reason, he's one of the few that I've seen spelled with a C. But he's a great man, my best friend, one of my best friends, him and my dad. Just super blessed to have him in my life, So, I grew up, started out in church all my life, as far back as I can remember. We went to church, and it was about 2 to 3 times a week. That's just what you did.
Dang.
You went to work, or you went to school, and you went to church, and that's just the way life was. And that's what my grandparents did. My great grandparents several of those were in church as well. So I grew up in a very, very, very religious Christian, very conservative lifestyle. And I'm talking about very conservative, as in when I was born, our religion did not allow you to go have a child at the hospital. You had to have a midwife, so I was delivered in a house. And I had a great aunt that was a midwife, and she delivered me and my brother. And so just interesting things like that, I kind of had a unique beginning.
What religion is that? Is it like a certain one, or is it what?
Yeah, it's if I call it out, there'll be 2 people that may have heard of it. It's called Holiness.
Okay.
It's a charismatic religion, kind of a very strict version of like Pentecostal, apostolic. So strict that we didn't believe any of the others were going to heaven,
Dang.
So the Church of Gods and the Baptist and all those were not considered Christian to us.
Right.
Yeah, they're missing the mark. So I grew up in a really, really, really strict religion, and people that know me now, they're like, "What?" But it's a lot of what's brought me here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have so many questions because my wife was kind of in the same type of thing in California. Okay. It was a little different. Were you able to wear like normal clothes? Did you have to, like the gals had to wear these things called culottes. Like when they played sports, they had to wear these really long shorts. They had to wear dresses all the time.
Yeah.
The boys had to wear like dress shirts and slacks and ties and stuff. No TV. I mean, was that kind of...
That was it. Yeah.
Man.
It was a lot of those things. As a teenager, when I got into the church, once you was born into the church, like in faith, then you could no longer play sports in school and things like that. So I had to, in my high school, going from middle school to high school is when I got saved in the church. And so I no longer was able to play on the team.
Oh, man.
And you're not allowed to compete at a level like that. Now you can go outside and play basketball and you can play with your friends and all that, but you can't do it organized. Like you can't do organized sports and stuff. So, I gave up all of that to be in church. I loved football, basketball, those things. So at 14 years old, I gave up all of those things and just dedicated my life to church and the Bible and all the things that belong to that,
You're a pretty big dude too, right? I mean, like I'm assuming you're pretty athletic because I see all the things that you do now. Like you got to be an athletic person, so that must have been tough.
Well, I used to be, yeah. I'm not huge, but I was a wide receiver and a corner and all that, so had a lot of speed and jumps. I love basketball, but I love sports. I remember the coach calling me in his office. And he was a big deacon or elder at one of his churches and the coach over the team. And he was just like begging. He's like, come on, man. Like God surely is not going to, he really, I wish now that I wish I'd have just played. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But looking back, I gave up a really huge part of my forming and shaping. And it had an effect on me. I mean, we may get into some of that, but when you are in such a strict walk of life and everything is demonized that is common to most people,
right?
For me, it was demonized. So even listening to country music,
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can imagine where I am now compared to where I started is a big difference. And it's been a very painful journey.
That's the interesting thing about that, because I feel like, and my wife and I have this conversation all the time, because their church was so strict, just like that. As it broke up, as people started to leave the church, there's a lot of people who went off the deep end. Like I mean, they, promiscuous, drugs, alcohol, I mean, really bad, to the point where like they're in rehab, suicide, things like that. And luckily, there's my wife, that didn't affect her that way, but there are lots of people that she was friends with who have either ended their life or have gone off the path that, was just super tough, because you're getting things taken away from you, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. That's not normal. That's not something that you do. So instead of learning how to use it like normal people do, I'm going to have a drink tonight. You have you get blackout drunk every single time, because if you don't, then you're not living, and you missed out on that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've witnessed so many people in my life that once they fell from the grace or whatever, however anybody would want to word it, they just went off to the abyss,
Yeah.
And I did. I mean, I had my own steady fall to the bottom, and really way below the bottom. And there's a whole thing there, but I didn't get into suicidal parts and things like that,
Yeah.
But it's when I look back, it's kind of interesting talking to you about my life, because I don't dig into it often. You know what I'm saying? And then when I get to talking about it, I start thinking about things and remembering things so it's really neat. I guess I didn't think about that part of this.
Well, you're the one thing that I picked up, because I talked to you a couple times on the phone before we did One Drink Wednesday, is that you do a lot of different things. And after we said, hey, we're going to do the interview, I started watching a little more on TikTok. And I mean, you do a lot of things to better yourself, it seems like, and you do a lot of thinking. And I think that a lot of people just think that, like a musician or someone who's doing what you do is just kind of like, I'm talented, I can sing, this is it. That's all there is to me. But there's a lot more to you, I've noticed. I mean,
I appreciate that.
I think that even though you're still a Christian, right? Not not that type of Christian, but you still believe in God, and that didn't
Oh, yeah, very much. I have a great faith in God, and I don't practice Christianity like, to say I'm not against it. It's
Yeah.
just, but God and faith, and, I have, Christ, I believe in all that. Like, I'm not, I haven't went AWOL or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
I just have a very different um, need in myself than what I had because of my background. And everybody's not where I'm at because they didn't have my past. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like you said, the moderation that people have when things are kind of normal,
Mm-hmm.
like having a drink and being able to have a drink with your family or whatever. I've never seen my family drink other than my kids,
Right.
but my parents, none of those people ever drank in front of me. I never heard anybody say a cuss word, never, it was just and it wasn't unhealthy. I had a loving, great, amazing
Right.
childhood. I mean, I couldn't even begin to be so thankful for how good my life was. I'm not complaining about those things. It wasn't my family that had all the stuff about them. It was the people we went to church with and all
Right.
that. My family was kind of more of always pull for the underdog, treat people good, love people, and not judge people and things like that. So I grew up being taught at home to just let everybody be how they are.
Yeah.
Even though I was in this super strict religion, and when I would go to church or wherever, they were harping on, you can't do this, you can't do that, all these rules and regulations and stuff. So I was blessed to have the home life that kind of taught me the true meaning of love and forgiveness and, doing good to people and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
Because
my
I
home
think
life didn't reflect the church life.
that's good to know, because I think that's probably the hardest part. Like, because if your parents were that way, like they obviously, you probably learned a lot about the Bible and about church and things like that. But then there's also all these things that it gets super judgy. And if you're doing this, then you're not right. And the fact of the matter is I'm pretty sure Jesus died for our sins because we were not perfect, and no one is perfect. And there's only one person who can judge us. And it's not me judging you, and it's not you judging me.
That's right. Exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was blessed. My family really took that route, and they took a lot of persecution in the church because we were a family, like my grandparents, that was really considered merciful to people that
Mhm.
would possibly be put out of the church or whatever. So, like, just to give you an example, one of my first recollections, remembrances, whatever you want to call it, of being really young and an event in church. There was this lady in the church, and at the time she was probably a young girl in her early 20s, but I'm a little kid, so she's a woman.
Right.
And she trims her hair, like just cuts it. So she had really long hair, and she trimmed it, cut it, whatever,
Uh-huh.
not all the way off, just some length or whatever. And they literally, that was it. Like, and I remember this was like one of the early things I remember of her getting put out of the church. And I still know the lady today. She's had a very, like you've talked about, she's went down, a very difficult life because that was her family and all her friends and all this stuff.
Right.
So, and I saw this time after time after time until the day that it happened to me. And, there was no kind of scandal or anything, but I did decide that I was going to leave my marriage of 18 and a half years. And, I was going to pursue other things. I never cheated or anything like that. It was, we grew apart, and she chose to do some things that wasn't something I could support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and even that, I tried to give her a chance, and I ain't gonna get into all that. So,
No, you're good. Yep.
detailed, but I tried to give her a chance, and we were just in different places in life. She's a good mother, she's a great person in her own right. It's just we had grown apart, and I traveled a lot for my work, and at the time, I dedicated my life to church. I was all about ministry. I did radio ministry for a long time. I did so many things. Yeah, I was listening to your voice when you were coming on. You've got a great voice, for you have a great voice for all that. So
Everyone hates their own voice. It's kind of weird. Like, you hear it and you don't hear it the same way as actually other people hear it. And so for me, like, it always bugs me. Like, it's kind of annoying, but I've heard you're not the first person who said that. And so it's kind of like, I guess if more than one person's saying it, it might be true,
It is. It's true.
Yeah.
And I know voices, and I'm with you on the hating my own voice. Believe it or not, one of the big obstacles for me, especially going into the recording studio, is when you have to play back and listen to yourself sing, and it is brutal.
Yeah.
It's like holy cow. So, but yeah, I did the radio thing for a long time, and just spoke in front of a lot of people. Believe it or not, public speaking and speaking. I taught Bible and things like that.
Right.
Did a lot of funerals, spoke at a lot of funerals, just things like that goes along with ministry. But that was my true passion and love, was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And, I spent so many years in the Bible and teaching the Bible, things like that. So, I still have that foundation of things that I learned.
Right.
But the thing is, what I've really discovered is I didn't know what I thought I knew. And, sometimes I have this saying, you don't know anything until you've lost everything.
Right.
And, there's just so much. You may not even know you have things until you have nothing. Right. And then you're like, oh, I used to have that,
Right.
I used to, and, it's not that I lost everything. It's I walked away from everything.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. So I don't have any bitterness towards anyone. But I just pretty much backed away. I had a leadership in the church. I was a pastor, of the
now,
church.
Is this at the same church that you grew up in, or is this a different church?
Yeah, it was the same type of church, yeah.
And how long ago was this?
This was 7 years ago, I guess.
Okay, so you've been away from the church, from kind of like organized religion as a pastor and things like that for about 7 years.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I went to church very little. And that's a whole nother thing. But, with my background and all, I've never just been able to find a fit, and nothing against, people. If it's hard, I think people sometimes don't understand, like when you were as deep into things, and I was deep into things doctrinally. I taught things. Yeah. I taught really strict doctrine. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of regret that I've had to work through and shame through all of that. I was very merciful, in that realm, but nonetheless, I was wrong about so many things. Yeah. And when you get your eyes open, there's a lot of shoe leather to eat, if you know the old saying, You're right. And I've apologized to people that, I taught really hard things. It's, there's a lot of emotional damage that happens, because I don't ever want to mislead people. I don't want to do people wrong and all that. When you find out that you were wrong about things, that you impressed upon them, it's a big deal. It's it was a lot of adjustment for me.
Yeah, well, we live in a society where so many people are judgmental. And, I go to church. I haven't gone in a long time. I mean, before COVID was probably the last time I was at a church, but it's really hard to find one that I was in one where the pastor was, he spoke to me, right? Like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone who speaks to your soul and you want to listen to, and and helps you grow. And then he was human and he had an affair on his wife, and he's no longer a pastor anymore. And it's like, this is the thing. It's like, everyone's like, I can't believe he did this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, he's a human being. He sinned. Yeah. Has he done the things that he needs to do? And is it, he obviously won't be the pastor again, but I mean, he was someone who spoke to me for a long time. And it's like, you have a hard time finding that. And then especially when you know what you have to look for you need to look for that thing that feeds your soul. And it's probably tough to find that when you know what you know.
Very tough, because I when I did try to go to places, I had to really focus on the music, because when I would listen to things they would say, I spent so much time in the Bible and all the languages and all that. So it's, and not that I know everything about the Bible, because I don't, but but I hear things real easy, and it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
it's like, why are they saying that? That ain't what that meant, and all this kind of
Right.
stuff. And so I just sometimes, especially when they get into like it, when it's so much of a business and they want it to collect all the money, and I know people have to have money and all that, but it really gets, down
That's
a
the
rabbit
worst.
hole.
That's for me, like that's the one time that I'll walk out and I won't come back, because that's not
Yeah.
really to me what it's about. Like I walked into a church one day, and I think it was probably the third service that I had been to. It was a Nazarene one, and when I was in college, and they took 30 minutes to put all the graphs up on the church and where the money was and where it was going and why we need to give more. And I was just like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
Yeah.
This church is full of a bunch of college kids who don't have any jobs and doesn't have money, and we're here to listen about God, and you're telling us all about money. If you have the money, give it. And that's what I like about the ones that I go to. I go to Calvary Chapel is where I met my wife and we got married, but they don't ever have. They have like a box. You got money, you put your money in the box. They don't pass a plate. And that's
the first thing I did when I took leadership of a church is I stopped having the collection.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things I did. I totally ended the collection, and we ended up having more money because people would give, it wasn't shaking, like you said, shaking a pan in front of somebody or whatever. Right. It became people actually purposing in their heart what they wanted to give and all that. And the money that people give discreetly with intentions is going to go a lot farther than the ego money, you know. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's been a big thing for me. But I'm out of all that and very thankful. Like, not to scold anyone or to look down on anyone or I wouldn't try to tell somebody to stop going to church, nothing like that. But in my experience and what I've been through, I've found so much more peace in my life and deepened my relationship with God. And just like talking to somebody like you or talking to people I come across, throughout the day and all, man, I have a lot of communion with people, and getting to share my faith. And it's not the same as it once was, but yet it's very similar. I still have a really deep, strong faith. It's just not in legalism. And it's not in the things that don't matter, but it's in more of the weighty matters of things. And so that's where, I've grown as a man of faith. The things, you got to understand, like when I was made to feel bad if I listened to a country music song.
Right.
And if you can imagine when I went through a divorce and left, slept in my car, man, like I had a great job. My mom died the same month, I left the church, I left my home, sleeping in the car, interviewed, started a new job. So all these things happened at one time.
Right.
And, I really, God sent the things into my life that I needed to sustain me. And really it came down to music really kind of saved my life, I'd always sang in church, but I'd never sing country music, of course. And when
did you pick up a guitar? How long have you been playing the guitar?
Yeah. So I started about 8 years old, I guess. My dad came in, he had a little Yamaha guitar, and he handed it to me and he showed me 3 chords. And that's all he knew was 3 chords. And, I was on and off, but I went through this little phase about 10, 11, 12 years old where I really, really got interested. And so it's interesting. The church I went to, you weren't allowed to play guitar in. It was wrong to play the guitar in. So, but we went to this one church, and this is hilarious because it's actually since then, this kind of stuff has become very popular, and it was a snake handling church. So we would visit this one particular snake handling church. We would just visit there whenever it was like, but I was like a 12-year-old boy, and the reason we would visit is I could take my guitar and play the guitar in church when they sang.
Yeah.
And so here I am in a church, and they got a box of copperheads, And so I saw some interesting things there. But honestly, that's where I really learned to play the guitar, is just sitting there in church. And then we would have like people over to my grandmother's house, and they would sing gospel songs all night long and have food, and man, sing and shout all through the house and everything. And that's where I learned how to sing and play.
Yeah.
You know.
So you didn't get into country. You weren't allowed to listen to country music. So what got you? How'd you
down on for country? Yeah.
So how did you find it? What happened? I mean, obviously you're not in a world that's locked off to the world, right? You could find it, I'm sure.
Yeah. So my dad owned a machine shop. And so if you know anything about the machine fabricating world, machinists, fabricating, welding, sandblasting, burning with a torch, cutting steel, that whole world. It was a job shop. So working on plows and, whatever kind of parts somebody brought in, old furniture and cast iron furniture. Well, these guys, man, they cuss like sailors. We're talking about the spawn of Satan. They're the roughest, crudest, backer chewing, cigar smoking overall, just the prime cut. And so I was 11 years old. I had to go work and I had to go clean the machines out and all that. I was made to work every day. I didn't get to go the revivals and all that kind of stuff. My dad's like, no, your ass is going to church, I mean, going to work. Everybody else went to church and during revival season, and I had to go to work. So, which is a good thing. They meant that you worked and provided for your family and all those things. So, but I was in there 11 years old, man, and these guys were just like pirates, they were just the roughest of the rough. So I got exposed to a whole nother world,
right?
On my day-to-day job at 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. I'm going to church, to work all summer long, with my uncle, and sandblasting, welding, cleaning, whatever. So I started really young and had a lot of, training and that kind of stuff. So that was my first big experience in hearing all the bad things. And,
right.
Learning about it. And then, of course, school them, and you're going to hear a lot of stuff there. But so that's where I kind of got, broke away from the nest a little bit.
Yep. And then so country wise though, like picking up country music, how long have you been doing that?
It in the shop.
Oh, they played it in the shop. So in your dad's place, your dad's business, they played it.
So
okay.
It's this real dirty metalworking job shop.
Yeah.
With everybody smoking cigars and weed and, got rough, and they got these little broken down radios hanging on the wall, and that was my take of country music. And so the local radio station, US 101 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's one of the few phone numbers I still remember, 642-9101,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, I called it every day and would request different artists, that I was liking at the time and stuff. And me and my uncle we'd come up with a song to call in. So I'd call them in the morning, and request. Back then, they played more like by request and all that. Now I think it's all like probably preset or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was really cool, and still friends with some of those DJs and stuff, and had the opportunity to work with them. So that was cool, so I was the little kid annoying them, calling in, requesting songs. But what's crazy is, here I am, 11, 12, 13 years old, calling in, requesting a song about losing your wife or whatever.
Right.
Not knowing that one day I would kind of start understanding what those songs mean.
Right.
And another thing is a lot of those songs that I used to request are songs that I covered today.
Yeah.
It's neat how they really impacted me and they stayed with me, and it's songs that I love to sing.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that. I've heard that joke. What do you get when you play a country song backwards, right?
Oh yeah.
Your wife back, your dog back, your car back.
Get it all back, definitely.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. That's that in Nashville we hear that kind of thing a lot.
Yeah.
So
you started.
That was where I got country.
Okay, so now you're working on just doing your recording stuff. You've got some songs out on everywhere. I listen to them on Apple, so I'd say that. But when did you start thinking, hey, you know what, I'm going to make a career out of this? You
know what? What happened is pretty simple. I never did social media, and I had this girlfriend that after uh, my divorce, I was dating this lady, and she had social media. She was very tech savvy. I'm not, And so we broke up, and when we broke up, I'm like, well, what's this social media stuff? So I just, I never had any interest in it before. Well, I get this Facebook account and turn it on. There's all these people I haven't seen since school, like all these years
Right.
before, and it was really neat. Like, I'm like, wow, and like literally I had like a thousand friends on Facebook in like a day,
Yeah.
just these people that were this like, I was like a dry sponge in water, just soaking up all these people I'd lost touch with and stuff, So one day I had my living room at the time, the place where I was at. And of course, I'm, broke up. We're broke up, and I'm in Heartbreak Hotel, and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And I see this button on my phone that says "Go Live," and I'm like, I wonder what that would be like, because I used to do radio, right? Like I
Yeah.
used to talk and sing on the radio, and then I used to do, speak in front of people, sing on stage, all that kind of stuff in gospel music. So I actually think I did a couple of YouTube videos that I put out. It's been a super long time since I've posted any YouTube videos. It's something I'd like to do soon because
Yeah.
YouTube seems to still be the go-to place for music and stuff. But
Right.
I've just been negligent there. But anyways, I went live on Facebook. And here I am in my living room, and I go live, and all of a sudden these people are popping up, and I'm singing some songs, and they're commenting, and I'm like, wow, like I just sang to it was like there was like 50 people at a time or something. It was like crazy to
Right.
me, I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. And so I sang to like 1,500 people in 30 minutes, and I'm like,
Wow.
holy shit, like what place could I go and do
Yeah.
that? This was my thinking, So I started doing that, getting on there singing songs. I was really horrible at country music because the cadence of country music versus the gospel that I was, into and all was much different. And so I had this learning curve. And if you go listen to some of my earlier stuff several years ago, you're going to hear more of the gospel voice than you hear today. I'm able to kind of bring in more of the country
Right.
sound, But yeah, it was really like I'm sitting here in my living room singing to 3,000 people in 15 minutes, And it's
Right.
like, where could I go and do that? So one day it was cool. I was like, if I was to book a show and sell tickets, who would come? And it was like this overwhelming amount of people that was like, we'll come, I'll be there, blah, 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 time and place,
Yeah.
This a huge amount of support. And man, like there was this really awesome venue in Chattanooga. It's one of the top music venues in the country. Like it was amazing. And I went to them guys. They let me come in and rent the place. And then I just sold tickets. And man, people bought tickets and came.
That's awesome.
Like, yeah, like just from right there, going from 0 to 100,
Right.
And so my first show probably had 60, 70 people or so. I don't know. It was a pretty small venue. It would
Yeah.
hold probably 150, something like that, roughly. But, I didn't have, I wasn't sold out and all that. But I had talking about zero marketing. I think a buddy
Right.
of mine got me in the Chattanooga paper, with an article or something. But I don't know that people much read the paper
Yeah.
anymore. But,
Right.
yeah, exactly. And so that's how it started, man. The next thing it was going. I was doing things. I'm getting calls. My fan base is growing, and it was really the hottest time. That momentum. More so than now because there's been so many things change in my life, and then I came right out of the church, so I was the worst thing I was doing was drinking a little bit.
Yeah.
And since that point, like after that point, I took a turn, and I had sponsors, whatever you want to call it, whatever you call them, anyways, money.
Yeah, right.
Had somebody partnering with me, sponsoring me with money and all that kind of stuff. So I was in a really good spot, and I went full time. That's when I kind of left my career, which I had a really good job. And investors, that's the word I'm trying to get to.
Yep.
I had investors, so I had the money and all the ability, support to be full time, and was able to do that for a while, to the extent that it really a couple of years of full time country music. When your biggest decision of the day is where you're going to eat dinner, and all
Right.
that. So that really had an impact on my life because my popularity was growing. All of a sudden there's people in line, and I'm, signing an autograph and getting my picture made with somebody, and
Right.
that was a big change for me. And then, you get the attention from the women type stuff and all that. Because I was a single guy,
Right.
still am, not much
If you're
has
looking.
changed. Yeah, well, I'm, I've got friends and stuff. I'm not trying to put it out there like I'm single and I'm looking to be with somebody.
No, I got you.
I've got relationships, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I've great stuff in my life. I've met such amazing people, and going from where I was then to where I am now, there's no way I could have connected those dots. There's no way. And I'm sure you feel that way about your life, and,
Oh, yeah.
and that's everybody's story, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the silver lining has been this deepening of my faith in God.
Yeah.
And all of these things, the wildness, the craziness, the fun, maybe a little splash of fame, I guess I kind of felt like I was a big fish in a small pond kind of thing, and
Yeah.
I was content with that. To me, it wasn't really about going and being as like some huge megastar somewhere. It was about singing to those 50 people that loved and wanted to be there. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like, to me, that was good for me, and that's still good for me. I love doing like small settings and things like that where people pay to be there. And the reason I like that is because they want to hear you. So you're not just some noise over in the bar somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right. So where does it go from here? Because you're talking about a little bit like you've been playing these small shows and things like that. What's the next step in Dallas's career?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of this love-hate thing. I love playing and going, but at the same time, there's a part of it that I don't love. And I don't need, believe it or not, like I know I don't need attention. I don't need, a lot of people want to be famous, right?
Right.
And they say, and that's fine. Like if people, they have an ambition, they have a desire, they want to be famous. That's never been my drive at all. Ultimately, what I like to do is I like to help people. If it's sing a song and it makes their day, or they relate to the song, or it gets them through a hard time, or whatever it is, those are the things that I enjoy about what I do in music, right? So it's not about the fame part. Now, I could do things, and I've had many opportunities to go down the path that would take me to a high level.
Yeah.
I choose it and go a different way. I don't want to go that way. Now, is it growing? Absolutely. And honestly, and this is something that my intentions right now, I'm in Nashville, but I'm about to move to California.
Oh, shoot.
I know that's crazy. I know that's a whole thing,
Yeah.
for several reasons, for work opportunities, but I really feel like that I'm going to have a really good opportunity in music out there.
Mm-hmm.
When I go visit, the response I get out there is just overwhelming. And here, coming to Nashville to sing and to try to make it big is not really it would not be my advice to anyone. You come here to have resources. You come here to, record albums. You come here to have your musicians and to write and to be around the best out in the world. But, other than making a little money to sustain you, singing around Nashville is is
There's a lot of them, right? It's kind of a dime a dozen.
Well, they are. It's saturated, and not just that, they get stuck in this hope of being discovered, you know, and it's just not. It's not really the way things work like they did back in the '60s and all that, when you could end up on the Grand Ole Opry and be blasted out all over the country, and all that kind of stuff. Like that stuff. It's such a business now. It's so controlled, and it's such a game of who's who, and
right.
All these kind of things that if you got to be realistic about it. And for me, I'm content doing the things I do independently. So I'm good with it. So I'm going to do some stuff in California that I'm pretty excited about. And that may sound radical and crazy. There's a lot of people in California.
Oh yeah.
And one thing I know is the people out there love, as other parts of the country. I have a lot of fans out of Michigan and, out of Canada and different places like that are just really, really, really awesome country music fans. So, that's something I'm looking to do, to just change it up, go out there.
Yeah.
What the hell? You only live once, as the saying goes. I'm in a great place in life. I have the freedom that I can do what I want. So why not? So that's where I'm headed.
Well, if people want to get a hold of you, so you talked about Facebook. I know you're on TikTok. I know you're on Instagram. Where's the best place to follow Dallas?
Well, you can definitely go to my, TikTok's where I'm hanging out more right now.
Yeah.
Due to the algorithms and things like that, you can check out some of my videos and things that other people, even back in my bluegrass gospel days and stuff, on YouTube. So I was in a gospel group called Cross Hollow. It was a bluegrass gospel. So there's a lot of real professional videos and stuff. We did a lot of great stuff. It was me and my brother and a lifelong best friend. And so you can go to YouTube, hear a lot of my music, but Facebook is a great place. I have a music page, a fan page, music page, where people can follow me there. I post everything on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And I know there's probably so many other things people do. I'm just do what I do,
Yeah,
everything
you gotta do what works.
Yeah.
You gotta do what works.
For me, I could do more if I wanted to do more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm very content in what I do and how it's going. So when I did it full time, it became a job. And when things become a job, you lose your passion, and you lose that sizzle and that fire that you have that people resonate with, right?
Yep.
So, and then like what you're doing, such a passion, and that shows in how you love interacting with people and getting to know people and sharing stories and all that. So, if that ever became all you did all the time, it may sound good, but then you got to find a hobby, right?
Yeah.
So that was what I found out. It's like all of a sudden I'm doing this full time, and I'm like, man, so hanging out on Facebook, hanging out on Instagram, I post everything I do there. I do a lot with my stories on Instagram. So follow me. Dallas Walker Official is what I've tried to keep straight. I think when I got on there, they used the official word. People give me hell about that. Dallas Walker Official, well, whatever that means. I don't know what it means, but that's what I use,
Yep.
And, I haven't figured out how to get all the blue check mark stuff and all that. I've never hired nobody to do it for me because I didn't really know. I guess I would if somebody knew how to do that,
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of trouble with people making fake accounts and reaching out and things like that. Like that's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate part of social media is when people try to reach out and scam people and all that kind of stuff. But that just goes with it. So, I love TikTok and how that's going. And that's really kind of how I got connected with you,
Yeah.
What an awesome thing there, and what you do. I love what you do. I love, watching what other people do. It's a very awesome thing. It probably won't last forever, but it's definitely a very powerful tool for free. I mean, like, holy shit,
That's the thing about it is, like, I sit here and I think about like how I got connected with you from another person on TikTok, Bunny Ship, friend of mine, who was like, you should interview this guy. And then I'm like, okay, who is he? And then I start listening to your music and I start watching you and I start knowing. And the next thing you know, it's like, here we are. One Drink Wednesday, a little bit of podcast interview.
She did us both a favor, man.
Yeah.
She did us both a favor. You know, I had another lady that introduced me to a songwriter, and we became great friends. And he ended up co-writing a couple of my songs on my album and things like that, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just never know, like through social media. So a lot of my shaping and my success is coming through these grassroots connections, you know, has been the strongest thing in my life. And I love that because it's not me going and handing a bunch of money to people to buy my way in.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a huge thumbprint, it is, you know, an organic following that I'm very thankful for. And, you know, I mean, very undeserving. I feel like I don't do a great job as an artist for what the fans out there, how they love me and appreciate what I do. You know, it's very humbling sometimes. And I've lost a few, you know, along the way, you know.
It happens.
Yeah, it really does. It's unreal. Like people get on the train and then they jump off the train, you know. And they, you know, they're just it's just how it goes. But what it is.
Well, I appreciate you being here. It sounded like we talked a little bit. You might want to play a couple little chords here or something for us. Do you want to play us out?
I tell you what, I always love sharing a song. And I'll do a little verse and a chorus of a song I wrote about the girl I met.
All right.
And one of the most impactful ladies in my life since my divorce. And I wrote this song about the first time I met her and kissing her. And you can look it up on Alexa and Amazon, you know, Apple. I can't say Alexa loud, I don't answer. and so... what's funny sometimes is on my lives I'll say something like, you know, Alexa play that, and it'll like people start commenting like it, you know, it like came on, opened their Alexa up or whatever, you know. So
that's funny.
And I have put comments into people that were sitting there listening to music, you know, like Alexa play, you know, and they would say it and then it would, you know, they would read the comment out loud or whatever.
That's funny. Anyways,
this song's called One Thing Different, and I'll just do a verse and a chorus of it, but just look it up.
It's a good song.
Let me get her down here where it goes. Hey girl, can I have your attention? I was thinking about the first time that we met. You looked at me and I looked at you. You said kiss me and I was through. And we fell in love. Life fell apart. And if I could do one thing different, I wouldn't do anything different from then. If I could just do one thing different, oh, I would go back do it all over again.
Oh, man.
Section right there, man, of a song.
That's a great song. I listen. That's one of the ones on iTunes.
15 minutes.
That's awesome.
That's a breakup song. So I really screwed it up, and I was like, "What am I going to do? I got to do something." I sat down and did what a singer-songwriter has to do, man. I wrote a song for her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's you know, it's what it is. That those little songs, something I love about just what comes right out of your heart in the moment. And it's not perfect and it's not manufactured and it's not something like you hear on the radio all day long, but it was somebody's feelings and emotions in a moment.
Yeah.
And that's something I've tried to capture a few times.
Yeah, well, that's what music's about for me. It's like there's a story behind it, and if it's a personal story, then it's way more meaningful than if it's written by someone else.
You know, it's a whole world, you know.
Yep. Well, Dallas, I want to say thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on here, and we'll have to do this again because it's fun. It's a good time. So
Yeah, we got more to dig into. Maybe one day I'll get to interview you for a little while.
oh, it'd be awesome. I wouldn't mind. I'm always
You're
up for a
great
good
guy,
talk.
Wes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so thankful I've got to meet you and meeting Jay and all that. Y'all are great guys, man, and you're going to do very well. It's just going to get better for you.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it. Hey, everyone, that is the end of the show. Thanks to Dallas Walker for hanging out with us. You need to go check out his music. I will make sure that I put some links in the show notes so that you can find him, because you're missing out if you're not listening.
I love it. Thank you, man.
All right.